A pregnant lioness slowly walked across the African savanna. Every step was difficult. Her belly weighed heavily and made movement difficult. The sun was approaching noon, heating the dry grass and earth, and the wind lazily swayed the dried stalks. Her gaze was alert, and she listened carefully to every rustle, knowing that she was particularly vulnerable at that moment. With each step, her breathing became more rapid, and her strength waned. The lioness felt the weight of her condition and the need to rest. Her legs gradually buckled, and she noticed a lone tree nearby where the shade could provide at least a little coolness. She slowly approached it, looking around to make sure it was safe. Finally, the lioness lay down under the tree, carefully resting her head on the soft grass. She breathed heavily, resting and gathering strength. The wind played lazily with her mane, and the light shade provided relief from the scorching sun. Here, in the silence and tranquility, she could gather her strength and prepare for the upcoming birth. On the edge of the African savanna, a rescue team slowly moved along in an off-road vehicle, carefully scanning the surroundings. The bright midday sun illuminated the tall golden grass, and a light breeze rustled the stalks. The team of specialists searched for animal tracks, checking potential locations where pregnant females or cubs might be found. Suddenly, one of them noticed movement under a lone tree. A lioness lay under the tree, breathing heavily, her belly noticeably rounded, ready to give birth. The team stopped at a safe distance so as not to scare the animal and watched her every move closely. The rescuers understood that any sudden movement could cause stress to the expectant mother, so they moved as carefully as possible. The veterinary kit was prepared, and the team members slowly jumped out of the SUV. They walked quietly towards the tree, keeping a safe distance and trying not to cast shadows on the lioness. Every step was carefully thought out. They were dealing with a mother-to-be, and now they had to act delicately to help her bring new life into the world. The lioness lay under a tree, her breathing heavy and rapid. She was giving birth. The rescue team was already close by. The veterinarians approached cautiously, knelt down, and observed the animal's condition. One of them spoke quietly, assessing the lioness's breathing and movements, while another carefully took instruments out of the veterinary bag. Everything was done quietly, and with concentration so as not to frighten the animal. The lioness sensed their presence, but showed no aggression. She trusted them, perhaps because of the calm voices and gentle movements of the rescuers. Her body trembled slightly, her muscles tensed, and her breathing became irregular. One of the veterinarians carefully placed a clean towel under her to prepare the area, while another checked her temperature and general condition. Their every movement was measured and cautious. The team worked in unison. One vet kept his hand close, watching for contractions, while another prepared instruments for emergency care. The silence around them was broken only by the steady breathing of the people and the muffled sounds of the savanna. Everyone understood that the decisive moment was approaching, and any wrong move could change everything. There was complete silence under the lone tree. Even the wind had died down. The lioness was breathing heavily, her body tense, her muscles trembling. The rescue team was already nearby. The veterinarians were silent, watching her every move, each one ready for action. One of them gave a quiet signal. Another unfolded clean towels and sterile instruments, placing them on the dry grass. The contractions were getting stronger, and the tension in the air was growing. Finally, the first cub appeared. Its small body trembled, covered in wet fur, and a faint squeak broke the silence. The vet removed the grass and carefully moved the towel closer, but the lioness took control herself. She reached for her cub and began to lick it thoroughly, helping it to breathe. A few minutes later, her body tensed again, and a second cub appeared, slightly larger, but just as weak and defenseless. The two cubs lay next to their mother, their eyes still closed, whimpering quietly. The rescuers watched with respect and awe, not interfering with the natural process. The lioness carefully pulled her cubs closer, covering them with her body, and finally was able to relax a little. The wind gently swayed the grass, the sun reflected off her sides, and the team of veterinarians stood silently. A new life had just been born before them, and it was a miracle worth working for under the scorching sun of the savannah. The lioness was breathing weakly, but showed no aggression when the rescue team cautiously approached with a stretcher. She understood that these people were not enemies. Supporting the animal's head, the veterinarians carefully carried her and her 2 tiny cubs to a prepared compartment in the vehicle, lined with soft blankets. The cabin was completely silent. Only the mother's steady breathing and the faint squeaks of her cubs could be heard. Driver Jack Miller held the steering wheel firmly, smoothly guiding the car along the road so as not to shake the passengers. The veterinarians periodically checked the lioness's condition, her pulse, breathing, and reactions, and each time breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that everything was stable. After a while, they arrived at the Nature Observation Center, where animals are temporarily kept after being rescued. This place was located near the savannah, quiet, green, surrounded by trees. The rescuers opened the doors of the SUV and carefully carried the lioness and her cubs to a spacious enclosure with soft grass, shade, and shelter from the sun. The vets placed a bowl of water and some fresh meat and watched as the lioness, exhausted but calm, raised her head slightly and looked at them. Her cubs huddled close to her, and one of them yawned quietly. The whole team stood nearby, feeling that they had just saved 3 lives, and that was more important than any words could express. Veterinarians carefully carried the 2 little lions to the center's laboratory. There, in a clean and quiet room, specialists checked their health. They measured their temperature, listened to their heartbeats, and examined their eyes and paws. The cubs were a little nervous, but the people acted very gently. Every gesture was careful and friendly. One of the cubs quietly reached for the veterinarian's hand, as if sensing that everything was fine. The examination showed that both were healthy, strong, and ready to recover alongside their mother. When the cubs were returned to the enclosure, the lioness greeted them with an anxious growl, but, sensing a familiar smell, she immediately calmed down. The cubs snuggled up to her, and the rescuers placed a bowl of food and fresh water in front of them. Under the bright midday sun, the lioness ate slowly, sharing the meat with her 2 curious cubs, who tried to imitate her movements. The veterinarians watched from a distance, not interfering. The rescuers smiled. The family was safe, and a new life lay ahead of them. The story of this lioness and her cubs reminds us of the power of human kindness and responsibility towards nature. Thanks to the attention and care of the rescuers, the lives of these 3 wild creatures have been given a new beginning. Every act like this is a step towards a world where humans and animals can coexist in harmony and trust. Subscribe and help us give more animals a second chance. See you next time.